see how we can send the change events or the deployment events whenever you deploy something on Prodvana to Levitate, Last9's Levitate, as an event, so that it can be correlated with other metrics that are also coming to Levitate from some of your microservices. So let's see. Prodvana has a integration for Last9 that we will leverage for this purpose. I have created a sample application in Prodvana for this purpose. And what that application does is it basically has a service, which is an Nginx service. And I will deploy that service to see whether I can send a deployment event to Levitate. Before that, we will set the Last9 integration in Prodvana. So currently, I have these two staging and production services, and we'll create a release to send that event to Levitate. Before that, let's set up the Last9 integration for uh, Prodvana for my Prodvana account. So here I come to the integrations page. I click on connect. Now here I have to copy the org slug access token and the refresh token that I get from Last9. In this case, I also have a link to the documentation that you can check. So Prodvana folks have added the information about how you can use the Last9 integration on the documentation that we can check. But I already know how this needs to be done, so I'll go ahead and directly do it. So let's go to the Last9 tab. The first thing that we have to do is generate the access token and the refresh token. I'll go to the API access, click on generate tokens, and then it will generate the tokens for me. In this case, because I want to create new change events in Levitate, I will copy the write token. I'll copy the access token and the refresh token first. So let's copy the access token and the refresh token here. I also have to add the org slug from Last9, which is the GitHub. In my case, I'm using this my GitHub account login. So the org slug is GitHub Prathamesh, and I'll just put it here. That's it. Click connect. Now the integration will be connected. I can see that it is connected. Send change events to Last9 whenever a service is deployed. Coming back to our service, let's go to the applications. Click on Last9. Click on the service. Now, as per the documentation, once we complete all the other things, there is one important uh, configuration that needs to be added in the deployment, which is about the data source in which we want to send these change events, because Levitate has multiple clusters. You can create as many clusters in Levitate as you want, which may have metrics for different services. For example, the service which is related to user management may send metrics to a particular cluster. Service which is related to the playback module may send metrics to a particular cluster, and all of these clusters are available in Grafana as data sources. So here you have an option to select which data source or a cluster you want to send data to, and these data sources are available in Levitate on this data sources tab. I can see all the data sources here, and I can copy the name if needed, depending on where I want to send these change events from Prodvana. So in this case, I just have to edit my deployment application YAML file in Prodvana to to add the annotations for Last9 and then add the data source as needed. I have that example already, so I'll just show that. In this case, my deployment is a sample Nginx deployment, as we saw. And then there is a annotations that I have added for my application. And here I have configured the data source. This is the same data source that I copied from the Last9 dashboard. This is an once you do this, then anytime there is a deployment, Prodvana will send the events to Levitate automatically. So let's see that in action. Let's create a new deployment. I'll go to manage release and create a new release. Now, in this case, let me just maybe select a new brand, new Docker image for this Nginx service. So maybe I'll select Alpine Pearl and I'll click create release. So the staging deployment is being rolled out right now. Uh, there are some checks that are happening. Current state is image hotel, which has been now changed to Alpine Pearl, which is the deployment that I wanted to do. Let's refresh. Perfect. Staging deployment has been converged. Let's see what happens in Levitate. So in this case, I'm looking at the embedded Grafana of Levitate. I have selected the same data source which I had configured in Prodvana to send my change events to. And the change events, all of the change events can be seen with one single metric, which is Last9 change events. In this case, I can see the application name, which I had configured in Prodvana. I can see the event name, service deployment. I can see the event state, which is the deployment had started. And then there are release channels, which was staging. I did the staging deployment. It was not a rollback. It was actually a new release, service name, service version, and all of that, right? So I can see that my deployment actually did send the change event from Pradvana to Levitate. Now, if I, let's say, approve production, then this should ideally send the request for this change event in case of production as well. Let's go to Grafana. Let's see if this event has come in. Yes, there you go. So actually, this is the earlier event where the deployment was stopped. So we can see that not just the start of the deployment, we get the event in Levitate. We also get a event when the deployment has been completed uh, in Prodvana. So this is the event for the staging deployment, which was completed. If we give it a minute more, we will also see the event for production. Yeah, there we go. So this is the event for the production deployment to start and then production deployment to end. And that is how we can see that Prodvana is able to push the change events into Levitate automatically whenever there is a deployment, whenever the deployment finishes, whenever there is a rollback, and all other operations. Most importantly, we do get what kind of service it is in the service name label. We get the event name, application name, and so on. And we can correlate these with the other application metrics that are also coming from our applications and infrastructure components. All of these events are getting ultimately converted to metrics, which is why I'm able to access them as Last9 change events, which means I can even combine them in PromQL queries and Grafana dashboard panels to correlate with other metrics that are coming. That's all. That's how you can get started with sending deployment events from Prodvana to Levitate.